Hello again. This is apt to be a rambling and very personal monologue, so anybody expecting a crisp and incisive lecture on comparative religion had best switch off now and go and watch a video of a puppy on a skateboard or a kitten peeping out from a boot or any of those other entertaining and amusing videos that one finds on YouTube. I was in Jerusalem last week, as some viewers will know. I tend to gravitate when they're to the Temple Mount, which is, for me, my favourite place in the whole world. You can see a picture of me that my wife took. It's in the background. That's me at Temple. That was just before the October the 7th massacres. The Dome of the Rock is one of those places that you find are very famous, world famous, and one when you come across them, there's almost a surrealistic feeling because it is well known to you, though you've never been there before. I'm thinking now of the Parthenon in Athens, St. Basil's in Moscow, and so on. The Dome of the Rock really does not disappoint. It's built on the Temple Mount, which is Mount Moriah, which is mentioned in the Bible. It's called the Dome of the Rock, of course, because it's built over a rock. And the rock, according to tradition, is where Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac on the command of the Lord, until at the last moment the Lord changed his mind and sent an animal sacrifice instead. It's where the temple was, the Jewish temple, first and second temples in ancient times. So it's a very significant area, to say the least of it. It's, according to Muslims, where the Prophet flew to heaven in the night journey on a magic horse called El Burak. Burak is lightning, by the way. And if you look around there, you can't go, non-Muslims can't enter the Dome of the Rock now. I was in there many years ago. There's a horse print shaped chip out of the rock, and they say that's where El Burak kicked at the rock when he took Muhammad on his journey to heaven. There's also some few hairs from the Prophet's beard recently kept there in the cave. The Dome of the Rock is the oldest Islamic structure in the world, incidentally. It's been there since about 680. The Kaaba in Mecca was already in existence when Muhammad founded Islam. So the Dome of the Rock is the oldest Muslim building anywhere. It's not actually a mosque, it's a shrine. I am very fond of places of worship. About 18 months ago, I was in Prague, and there's a cathedral there, which is the one that Kafka incorporates into a chapter of the process, the trial. And so I naturally gravitated there. And there's also the oldest synagogue in the world, the New Shul, the in the loft. It's where the golem was allegedly created. And because no one's been able to get into the loft for years, some people say the golem is still there. Visiting a synagogue is the simplest thing in the world. You simply walk in, cover your head, and nobody cares at all whether you're Jewish. Precisely the same thing, of course, goes if you visit a church or a cathedral. Nobody's interested whether or not you're a Christian. In the same way, in London, there's a Hindu temple at Neasden. I've been in there. The Hindus are quite happy for non-Hindus to visit. There's a very old synagogue, 17th century synagogue in London, Bevis Marks as well. Been in there, anybody can visit it. Most religions, that is to say, people that practice Judaism or Christianity, do not care about the faith of the person that enters the building. Things are very different with Islam, though. I got into a little bit of a fix when I was on Temple Mount, simply for this reason. I already, it was day when I had to myself. I visited the Holy Sepulchre, then I went to the Western Wall, said a prayer there. Nobody cared, nobody bothered that I wasn't Jewish. And then I went up onto Temple Mount and stood admiring the Dome of the Rock, as any tourist might, except of course there aren't any tourists at the, in Jerusalem, so I did stick out a little bit, I suppose. I stood there staring at it for a while, just admiring it. And then one of the Arab custodians started shouting at me, telling me that there's no praying allowed, which I'd temporarily forgotten. I'm aware that I was unable to enter the Al-Aqsa or indeed go into the Dome of the Rock. I'd forgotten that there is actually a prohibition on any non-Muslim praying near the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the Dome of the Rock, which is utterly preposterous. So I stood there, took no notice, and he went beetling off and fetched a couple of soldiers. The Israeli army keep troops and border police on the Temple Mount because they don't want any trouble, and they tend to side with the Muslims when it comes to anybody taking offence. Anyway, they came over and started cross-examining me about what my religion was, whether I was praying, that sort of thing, because there's been some friction when Jews have tried to pray on the Temple Mount. And this went on for a while before I lost interest and walked off. But the bottom line was that Muslim guy, one of the custodians of the holy places of Jerusalem, was offended, deeply offended, because I was standing looking at an Islamic shrine and he thought I must have been praying to God. And I find that the most extraordinary thing imaginable. And I think it tells us something about Islam. Let's just for a moment take this to London. Imagine, if you will, that a priest at Westminster Abbey in London sees somebody standing there staring at the building admiringly and suspects that the person was praying to God. And so he calls a policeman, gets him to move the person on. It sounds absolutely ridiculous when put like that, but what about Rome? Does anybody think that some priest would worry if a person standing near St. Peter's might not be Catholics? It's so absolutely bonkers that I can't even begin to imagine it, or imagine that if I was standing near the Western Wall, which is the last surviving fragment of the temple, someone might complain that I might be praying there. I mean, it'd be natural. Everybody prays at the Western Wall. As I say, the bizarre thing is I'd already visited the Holy Sepulchre and the Western Wall that morning. Nobody asked me my religion or hinted that my prayers might pollute those holy places. This then is the difficulty with Islam, and it's at the root, it's at the heart of Islam. Islam books no rivals, and Muslims feel constantly affronted if they suspect that other people are following other religions, or especially if they're following the religions too close to mosques or too close to Muslims. It's as though Islam is on the lookout for trouble. I've prayed in mosques in the past, but these days it's almost impossible for a kuffar like me, an unbeliever, to get into a mosque. There's a very strong feeling, at least to my mind, and I've got no prejudice against Islam, there's a feeling as though Islam is permanently spoiling for a fight these days. Like you occasionally meet people in pubs that are always looking for trouble. That's how Islam strikes me at the moment. That even the sight of a person who believes in God standing too close to a mosque or a shrine praying to God is enough to cause trouble, enough to start someone shouting. And as far as that goes, as I say, I've never encountered anything of the kind in Judaism, certainly never with Christianity or Sikhism or Hindus or Buddhists or anybody else. It's the Muslims